Difficult decisions have to be made, but the criticism has been that where you found the savings or the cuts have been disproportionately on the backs of those that can least afford it. And there's a couple other examples. You mentioned, obviously, child care subsidies, but the WRO to help people that are looking at foreclosure. And the cuts to that program, they say might be penny wise, pound foolish, where those people then are going to go on other county subsistence programs. Also, a program I'm familiar with, I know you are too, Westchester Food Bank.
Mm-hmm.
They had a cut, as did other food service agencies that helped out those neediest. We both know, great organization that delivers a ton of needed food in communities. I can tell you they personally are feeling the hit as well. What about that theme that the bottom here of the county are paying the biggest price with the belt tightening?
Well, let's talk about the middle class and everybody else who have to pay as well. And that has to come into focus because it is not an endless supply of money. And every time, and it's the highest tax county in America, and people legitimately are feeling after they've lost their job or they've had less income or their value in their 401ks are less, they can't take it anymore. And so are grandparents going to move to Florida and Skype or FaceTime their grandchildren? That's what it's coming down to, and we want to keep people here. So we have to find that balance. I think it's very important, and we have kept the level in Department of Social Services even, actually added a little more over the last 4 years. That's not the case in a lot of our other departments. I led the way. 19% gone from my county executive staff. Our budget is less today than it was. So I've led the way. I've asked unions. Now they're paying for some of their health care costs just like everyone else instead of paying, getting 100% free ride from the taxpayers. So we've all had to share the burden, and that's the way that we're going to get out of this. We're in much better shape now because of the decisions that we've made in a bipartisan way than most of our surrounding counties and certainly cities who may go bankrupt or may have a financial control board because they didn't stop some of the spending. But I don't agree that we have balanced the budget on the backs of the poor. That's the old line used by anyone who wants more and more and more money. We have made sure we had the right balance, a healthy balance between the needs, and there are plenty, and what we can afford.
A couple other things. I know you're working to keep some of the bigger tenants here, the PepsiCos within the county. I know that Class A office space, we got a vacancy rate, I think, in about 30%. Some would say maybe even upwards of it. How close are we to bringing in major corporations so that 4 years from now that number is even higher than it is as we speak?
Well, a couple things. Defense, and that is keeping PepsiCo here and Atlas Air and some other corporations who 4 years ago we saw the Starwoods of the world, Blue Sky Entertainment, flee to Connecticut and others. We lost 15,000 jobs before I got here. We've had 27,000 new jobs created in the last 4, and I think that's for a variety of reasons. Not all, of course, because of me or our administration, but the atmosphere is better. We're also using some of the tools in the toolkit. About 7,000 of those jobs are directly related to actions that we took through the Local Development Corporation or the Industrial Development Agency, which have kept people here or made it better for people to move here. Our LDC, for instance, we just incentivized 3 hospitals to do some major expansions. White Plains Hospital just broke ground this week on a $108 million renovation. They're adding 500 jobs. You mentioned the office parks along 287. One of the things I first heard when I got in from some of the real estate developers was there hasn't been a new office building built in 25 years. Well, 2 weeks ago we broke ground. WestMed just built or is building a new building along Westchester Avenue, the first one in 25 years and 500 new jobs. So I think we're making steady progress. I think the good news is we're in the right direction. Marist poll said 64% of Westchester residents feel we're going in the right direction. We're not there yet, but it would be a shame if we started going backwards to where we were in 2009.
I want to preface this next question with there's much that's in a county executive's job description, but he doesn't make much as it relates to social policy. However, a lot of attention has been paid, and I spoke to your counterparts running in Nassau County along these same lines as to, especially today with all the attention in Washington of the back and forth, where you stand on particular issues, and you know your county and the registration slightly more Democratic, not substantially more Democratic than Republican. You're pro-life, and as it relates to gay marriage, as far as I'm clear on it, you don't support the premise of gay marriage. Can you give the rationales as to why, and do you think it matters if that's out of step with the general population of your county?
I think you should ask the voters, because in 2005 it was the same issues thrown against me. In 2009 it was the same issues thrown against me. And in 2013 it's the same old tired playbook. You know, I have personal views. These are issues that we don't deal with. You're right. You know, the state ruled and gay marriage is legal here. My respect for the LGBT community is very well known. I've spoken at their forums. They have a meeting every month in my conference room, which I attend. So, you know, we might disagree on some issues, but the respect is there, and that's very important. In fact, I ask them for advice. They're the best committee we have. They don't ask for money. So, you know, I think all this stuff is a barrage of political nonsense in the last 4 weeks. People are going to judge me on who I am and what I've done over the last 4 years, and reining in the spending and dropping the county tax levy for 4 straight years, in making sure our social services are there, and making sure we fix problems like Playland. Playland loses $5 million a year. That's acceptable? Come on.
We'll be here for another hour.
I know, but you know what? We're taking care of that.
I got one social issue, though, that as a county executive you do have a role in. And obviously, well before Newtown, but even before that, the issue of guns.
Yeah.
There was a 10-year moratorium on gun shows
Yeah.
at the county center. You lifted that. Now, I know you, after Newtown, you stopped gun shows
Right.
there. But why did you lift it? And secondly, will you tell the audience that if reelected, there will or won't be another gun show in the county?
I would consider it if we got a request, and here's why. We have the protocols that the state adopted for gun shows. We were not going to allow a gun show to take part in the county center unless there were serious safety precautions. ATF, FBI, county police are there. Everyone has to sign that if any sale is outside the county center, it's an immediate arrest. Every sale has a background check. Now, these are things that we instituted before we allowed them to come in. This was ahead of the time. Since then, Governor Cuomo has allowed gun shows in state facilities and adopted the same precautions. Gabby Giffords and Attorney General Schneiderman, 2 Democrats, were just at a gun show in Saratoga 2 weeks ago, and they applauded the safety precautions that the Westchester County put in the gun shows, which are now adopted as part of the SAFE Act. So again, a balance, and can it happen? Yes, because of what is in there. What Noam Bramson is saying is just ludicrous. First of all, blaming me for the deaths of children, which happened before I was even in office. One kid was from St. Louis. And, you know,
I'm not so sure that's exactly what he said, but okay.
Well, I mean, that's
there
the
have been tough spots
insinuation.
against
That's
you.
the insinuation,
Well,
but we
make
don't
clear
allow...
for the audience assault weapons.
We
Do you believe there
no,
should be a ban on assault weapons?
Look, there is no reason why military-style, fully automatic assault weapons should be on the streets with anybody. I mean, that's ridiculous. But, you know, you're talking about law-abiding citizens who go through a major background check, criminal background check, in order to have a pistol permit. These are not only family people, these are victims of domestic violence. You have small business owners. You have law enforcement, retired and active. These are good law-abiding citizens. They should not be demonized. And as part of the SAFE Act, I mean, as part of what happened in Newtown, we initiated Safer Communities. Now, that's something that's real. That's something where we're actually making schools safer and neighborhoods safer. We joined with the city of Mount Vernon. County police went in this summer. We broke up gangs. We took illegal guns and drugs off the street, 250 arrests. We have a school resource officer now as part of this in Somers and in North Salem and in Ossining. So these are real things that we're doing to make schools safer and communities safer, as opposed to the rhetoric.
Just give an idea. If you were in Albany, and I wouldn't want to do that to you, you seem like a nice guy, but if you were in Albany and you had to cast a vote when the governor's gun control initiative went through, take away the ammo clip to 7, okay? Take that off the table. With the exception of that, would you have voted in support of that or not?
That night, no. And I criticized it that night because it was rammed through at 3 in the morning with no...
Agreed. Take the process out.
Well,
You've
but
seen
the process
you've
is very
seen the letters.
important.
You've seen the letter of the legislation here. You know what's in it. Would you support it?
We have put in, unless it included what we did, which we did, and I think that's a good thing. You talk about the seven rounds. That's a legitimate concern. That
of course it is.
That put
It's
every police officer
100%.
in New York.
And I agree with you. That's why I tried to take that off, which was silly on its face. Finally, we live in a day and age of political labels. Fair or not, we do. And I'm curious, if a Westchester resident came up and said, Rob, I'm a Tea Party person, and I see a lot of myself in you. Would you take that as a compliment or an insult?
You know what? I am who I am. I've worked, and I despise what happened in Washington, by the way. And I spoke out before the closure and asked them to act like adults and not clowns, to speak to one another. That's what we do here. Remember, I had 13 Democrats, 4 Republicans when I walked in the door. There's now 10 Democrats, 7 Republicans. So I couldn't get anything done, let alone a unanimous budget that compromised on everything and did not raise taxes without Democratic support. So we work in a bipartisan way. We have disagreements, but we actually communicate. And that has not happened in Washington, D.C. You know, it's very interesting because the founder of the Westchester Tea Party is the supporter of Noam Bramson and working on his campaign. He has endorsed Noam Bramson. But look at who I have the endorsements from. The League of Conservation Voters. 2 chairmen of the NAACP local chapters, New Rochelle and Yonkers. The labor unions, 40 labor unions, because of what we've done, been getting jobs back and on the Tappan Zee Bridge. We have the endorsement from Hispanic law enforcement and almost all law enforcement. So if you look at that, and I'm judged on what we've done, I think that's a better indicator than, again, garbage coming out of the other side in the last 4 weeks of a campaign.
You worried at all that some of the national stuff filters down to the local level, that the Republican brand, you see where it is right now, nationally at least, impacts people when they close the curtain on Tuesday?
I think both sides have to worry about that. The Republicans for the way
they're
they...
both in trouble. Republicans, historically low numbers
No,
now.
but Republicans for the way they acted during the shutdown, and Democrats now for the ineptitude of the Affordable Care Act and everything. So I think, you know what, if people focus on local issues and what we do locally, then I'm be happy to be judged by my record and where we're going. The national stuff is the national stuff.
Fair enough.
Okay.
And I wish you the best of luck on
thank you, Richard.
Tuesday.
Thank you very
Rob.
much.
All right, everybody. When we come back, we're going to hear from the counterpart, Democratic challenger, Noam Bramson. Please stay with us.